I'm going to suggest we lose it. And just put a line in it to put, when you submit your...
Thank you. I think it has now turned my business partner off, who seemed to be talking in the background. So this is the first of a series of webinars that we're running, and it's about achieving the quality and career standard. Some of what hopefully I'm talking again now because somebody accidentally muted me, but there we go. Complete Careers is one of the licensed awarding bodies that delivers the National Quality Award. We use a brand called CareerMark, and some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. So my plan today is to give you an overview of what the standard requires, and then to focus on one of the components that we have, which is called management. And I'm sure all the awarding bodies will be looking at this in their own way. So even if you don't choose to come with CareerMark to do the award and Complete Careers, you will still be learning some of the things you need to do. So let's hope, oh dear, this always happens. I put my screen share on and then it doesn't want to move. Perhaps that's because I'm going the wrong way. Let me just try again sharing my screen, folks. Sorry about that. So here we are. Let's hope, right, yes, let's see if we can start from here. That should be resume slideshow, right? Okay, there we go. Sorry, typical technology up. My apologies. I thought I'd got it all sorted. So by the end, that's what I hope you will have. Now, this takes us back to 2018, now a couple of years ago, when the quality assurance and the statutory duty came out for careers. I'm just going to run over this, as I'm sure many of you are aware of it, but it does make the link between the quality award, the Gatsby Benchmarks, and what is expected of you. Comes out, as I say, from the duty which we are waiting to be updated, but it hasn't been. And there is a danger, we feel sometimes, that there is a splattergun in your careers programme if you're not careful, particularly after the introduction of the Gatsby benchmarks, because you're asked to do this, and this, and that's great in some ways, but there is a danger it doesn't all get coordinated. And we believe that is one of the key features of the Quality and Careers Standard, to pull it all together and make sure that things are coordinated. So, what you will see, hopefully, is that there are elements of the Quality and Careers criteria, which is the national criteria. They are numbered very sort of precisely as QC 1.1, QC 1.12, etc. Now, don't worry about them, and you can have access to this recording, which will give you the PowerPoint. So the careers standard does align with benchmark 1. However, the careers standard, the careers goes further than benchmark 1, because it is about that all staff are involved in the programme. They should know what their roles are. They should have appropriate induction training and should be constantly, well, not constantly, but regularly updated to make sure they know how best they can help the learners. It's also, in our opinion, as a part of the quality in careers standard, that the learning that your young people get is very important, just as with other subjects. And I am an ex-secondary teacher who originally taught English and maths and then went on to teach a whole variety of interesting and exciting things until I left the profession and became a full-time career professional. But it is about learning. Now, at the moment, the CDI has a framework out which has 3 learning strands and 17 outcomes. It's not compulsory, but it's a useful tool. They are updating it, and again, I don't expect it to be compulsory, but it is useful. So identifying the career learning your cohort needs from when you get them to when they leave you, we think is hugely important and is, if you like, additional to the Stable Careers programme. Also, we believe it's very important that you are monitoring and evaluating that programme, and that student voice is there loud and clear, checking that you're delivering what they want and need and that it's being making a good impact for them. The same with people who might come in and contribute to your programme and any collaborative networks. And it's important also to remember that evaluation, and I don't spend a lot of time on this today, but if any of you are familiar with evaluation, Fitzpatrick model has 4 levels, and then we believe there's an additional one about return on investment. So evaluation isn't just about how happy were they, it is about changing behaviour, changing culture, if you like, making things work so that young people take ownership of their career learning and their career journey. Our strapline is, as Complete Careers, empowering people to make successful transitions. And that's what we believe this is all about. So moving on to Benchmark 2, again, you can see that there is bits of the Quality and Careers Standard align. And in this case, there isn't anything particularly additional for the Quality and Careers Standard. Benchmark 3 is the same again. There's various things we're asking you to do: stereotypical thinking, raising low aspirations, ensuring records. Now, again, this is something unfortunately Compass isn't brilliant at. Young people should be able to access the records of their own careers interventions and career experiences and learning. Now, Compass Tracker is really useful for you, but not quite as useful for the learners. So that needs some thinking around. Destinations information, where they might be going, and that could be if they leave you at 14, 16, 17, 18. So again, there is also some special bits here, if you like, that it's not about one size fits all. It's about looking at your cohort and their needs as particular groups, but also as individuals. And even within a particular group, individual needs may be very different. So there are people with special educational needs and disabilities. There will be those with learning difficulties and disabilities. There will be people like young carers, looked after children, pupil premiums, blah, 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 blah. You know more than me, no doubt, about all those special categories. And they may have different names in different organisations. But it's about thinking about your cohort as not just one blob, if you like, of young people who all need this in year 9 or 10 or 11, but about what do they need as they're moving through. Again, there's a little bit more about what is happened there about supporting them. So a bit more than benchmark 3. Benchmark 4, again, you've got the idea of world of work, employability skills, and this gets focused on quite strongly, but it is also about helping all your subject teachers understand what career learning is. And career learning is not just learning about jobs or careers in a particular subject. That is one of the 3 strands. And when I used to be employed by Connections and was able to go and do free staff training, I would always try and talk to all the staff about those 3 strands, because there is sometimes misunderstanding about what career learning is. The first bit of career learning that is really, really important in my mind and underpins the other 2 is, what does the young person know and understand about themselves? What sort of learner are they? What are their own interests, skills, qualities, etc.? And all subject teachers can help with that sort of thing, because they will know the individual's strengths in their subject. So that's one of the things about careers. What is a young person like? What are they good at? What are their interests? How can they develop to fulfill their potential? The second bit then is about, what are the jobs that are out there, if you like, the opportunities, the learning pathways available to them. Now, it's a very changing picture at the moment. Different parts of the country, it might be very different, but we do have things like the LEP. We can get statistics from the National Statistic Office. You can look around your area using websites and social media feeds to find out what jobs are being advertised, etc. You can learn about jobs that might be growing and are becoming more important. You can learn about jobs that might not be around in the future. You can't work out necessarily the ones that don't exist yet, but you can help young people be prepared to be flexible, resilient, all those things, so that they could access them. Talking about transferable skills from your subject. As I say, I was English and maths, and you've got all the communication skills by language. In English, you've got the communication skills by number. In maths, you've also got all the other things around that in terms of dealing with ideas, knowing about what salary and tax and national income and interest rates, etc., etc. So yes, English and maths are important, but also all the other subjects. What does your subject, or what does any subject, teach a young person that is transferable? And then finally in that, the third bit is about, where is a young person now, whether they be in year 7 or in year 12 or anywhere in between. Where are they now, and how do they make the best of their opportunities moving forward? That, if you like, is career management. And when they're only in year 7, it may be making sure they do their homework, be prepared for their lessons, try out new experiences, etc. As they get older, it may be that they begin to focus in on a particular job or an area of learning that they want to find more out about. And as they get into the 6th form, it may be that they've identified an apprenticeship they want, or A-levels, or BTECs, or a job, or whatever with training. So, but it's about moving themselves forward. So target setting, but it's also about the skills that employment might want. So being on time, meeting deadlines, regular attendance, being able to work in a team independently, etc., etc. So that is 4. Again, there are little bits additional. When we come to look at our model, which is the career mark model, we have 4 components that you need to evidence, which means you write about what's going on what we call a description grid for each of these components. And then once you've done that, you provide pieces of evidence, policies perhaps, example of visits from employers or work experience, example of recording learning, setting targets, all sorts of things. And then what advice and guidance. And then you present all that before somebody comes in. And once they've looked at that evidence, if they're happy with it, they come in and talk to your learners to make sure they are accessing the learning that is being evidenced. So that's sort of running you through those 4 and saying in a way how we do it. So but I'm going to talk a little bit more about management shortly, but think about all these things. So again, meaningful encounters with employers, quite difficult at the moment, but can be organised. Also making sure that they fit into that learning programme. When you get an employer in, what is it you're hoping the young people will learn? Not just about the world of work, perhaps, but also about themselves. Same with work experience. What do they learn about the place they go to? But what also do they learn about themselves? And it can be something they don't want to do. I go and talk to young people regularly as an assessor for the National Quality Award. And there will be occasions when I have young people there who will say, well, I went to do it at nursery. I thought I liked kids. Now I'm definitely not going to do that. I don't like working with kids. Or some will say, well, I discovered I'm actually quite good at communicating with different people. Or I don't want to be in an office. Or I liked being in an office. Or whatever. So things like that. Then we've got Gatsby Benchmark 6, which again is workplace, can be difficult. And again, clear learning objectives. They're understood, measured, and everybody knows what they are. Benchmark 7 is about meaningful encounters, about different learning pathways. That can be a different learning pathway from 14. If there's a UTC up the road, maybe that's where they want to go, or a studio school, or a special I don't know, sort of school that focuses, what do they call them, free schools that might focus on something particular. So do they know about that? I know you don't want to lose large numbers of young people at 14, and I'm sure you won't, but they ought to know what's available. The same at 16, what is available? You may have a sixth form, you may not. But there may be sixth forms or other than your own. There may be colleges. There may be apprenticeship providers from 16. So again, there's a lot of things that they might be able to access. And all these things need to be things everybody in the school begins to know about. From years 7 to 8, the parents and carers and all your staff. Not necessarily just the teaching staff, but also the support staff. You may even employ apprentices because there are now opportunities for apprenticeships to go into schools, maybe for IT departments or as technicians in science or as administrators or finance. So you may even be an apprenticeship employer. as well as knowing that it exists as a learning route for your youngsters. So it's about making sure they are introduced to all of those pathways. And there is no right or wrong pathway for any particular learner. Again, it's what they want and what suits them and what will work for them. So, then, if those encounters take place, what is it they're trying to be there for in terms of teaching learners? You know, if learners don't like sitting in a classroom and reading and studying, then maybe sixth form or uni isn't the right place for them, even if they're capable of doing it. Are they perhaps better going into an apprenticeship in a workplace or doing something more practical? And of course, the final benchmark is the one around personal guidance. And again, there has been a lot of confusion, I fear, over a number of years about what is careers advice and guidance. There are, just as there are trained teachers, and I am QTS trained, I have a PGCE from many, many years ago in Newcastle. But there are also people who are careers guidance professionals, at least at level 6 or 7. There are also some who may have level 4 or 3. Now, the government stipulates that level 6 is what they believe all young people should have access to at least once. But again, it's about working out who needs it when, who needs large amounts of it, who needs small amounts of it, etc. And again, that is something that you can work out with your cohort, with other professionals. I joined the careers world full time in 2001. As I say, I'd been a teacher, I'd been a senior tutor in a sixth form college. I'd been a head of sixth form, so I'd done a lot of pastoral work. But even then, I wasn't trained to do one-to-one work, and it was only after I left left teaching and joined the Connections service, as it became in 2001. For those of you who've been around long enough, I learned more about guidance professionals and the fact that guidance is a particular skill set, and that teachers and people in schools need to be careful about how they actually work with young people and guidance professionals. I have never qualified as a guidance professional. In some ways, I'm too old school teaching. A guidance professional needs to be non-judgmental. They need to have empathy with their young person. Ideally, they're not a figure of authority to them. So I have never gone down that route. I am a qualified mentor. And I understand about one-to-one skills. I've done quite a lot of training around Egan's skilled helper model, for example, and the GROW model of mentoring. But basically, I'm a careers ed specialist. So what you need to remember is who does the guidance and who might give advice and who might present careers information and how. So there is a code of professional practice, and there are sector standards that are expected of you for the quality award. Right, focusing a little more now on the quality award. When you start, you need to have a compass assessment done. Doesn't have to indicate much other than you've done it. You don't have to have achieved a particular number of benchmarks. You don't have to have done loads of tracking, but that's what you do. You have to have One, to show us you've done that initial assessment and you're starting on the journey towards getting the quality and careers standard. There will be an annual review once you have the award. We tend to do it over the phone and get you to begin to fill in the next set of paperwork for your revalidation, as we call it. And the quality awards are now fully Gatsby aligned. We are waiting for announcements because those of you who know the ins and outs of the statutory duty in the Gatsby benchmark, there was initially a statement that all schools should aim to achieve them by the end of 2020. That hasn't happened. Obviously, it's partly COVID related, but it wasn't going to happen anyway. The CEC produced an annual report, which I think says on average at the moment schools are completing 3 point something. We recently did a check, and of our schools who hold the award, it's just over 6. But even there, you can get the award. When you do it these days, there is a Making Good Progress award, but that is very positive and it may change very quickly once we get new guidance, and there is full accreditation. So just again briefly to remind you how ours work, we have management, advice and guidance, information and career planning or learning. And then on the day of an assessment, we come and assess the learner's learning. So now the focus I did say would go on to management, and I've now got about half an hour to focus on that. So what is going on in the management of your organisation to ensure that there is good practice, CEIAG? And it's a bit old-fashioned sometimes, or not terribly popular to talk about CEIAG, but I've never been one to be popular. And to me, it's important that we are clear that there are different elements to your programme. There is career education, there is career information provision, and there is the provision of career advice and career guidance. Different people can be involved in different elements of that in different ways. And it needs to be coordinated across your organisation, and it needs to be linked up and to fulfil what is required. So you have some statutory duties. Those include there should be the name of a career leader on your website, and there should be an overview of your career programme on your website. You also have a legal obligation to give all providers access to your learners, as I was talking about earlier, UTCs, other sixth forms, colleges. You may have a policy about when and how, but they do have the right to have access. There are requirements that Ofsted and Gatsby have, and again, those are likely to be good practice. And what are those? So, does everybody know the ones that are important to the school and to them as individuals? All staff probably, or certainly all teaching staff, need to know about Gatsby 4, which is embedding it within their subjects. All teachers, in my opinion, also need an understanding of what guidance is and what information and advice they are competent to deliver. They also need, ideally, an understanding of local, national labour market information. You also need to be clear about your learning. There are, as I say, good practice frameworks, and they are based on career learning theories such as socioeconomic or differentialism or trait and factor. and all have their role to play. And there are many others now, like serendipity and chaos theory, and you name it, there's probably a theory called it. But they are important, and knowing what you need to be thinking about in terms of the learning is also around the cohort you have. You might be from a leafy suburb with lots of highly educated parents. That may lead to more of an emphasis needed on one thing than another. You may be from an area where the school has a lot of economic deprivation, which may mean you need to focus on a different area. Some young people's aspirations and horizons need broadening hugely. Others know all about that, but they need to raise their self-awareness. So it is, what is the learning you're using for yours? Second component of, or the second element of our management component is, what are you doing with your learners? So what are the knowledge, skills and attitudes? That's what the KSA stands for, if you're worrying there. It's not Key Stage A, it's knowledge, skills and attitudes. We are teaching the young people so they are making the best of what they've got, they are moving forward positively, and they are hoping to contribute to their community and the world of work. Collecting the destination statistics can be more or less difficult, but it is supposed to be part of what you're doing. Also working out the impact of your programme, which means you might need baseline assessments. When your learners come in at year 7, they may come from very different places. What do they know? What have they thought about? If you get them transferred in later on, do check where they're coming from in terms of their self-awareness, their opportunity awareness, their understanding of career management and planning, because they may not have had the same inputs as your learners, so they may need catch up. So again, there's things like that. Check the stakeholders you're working with and what they're trying to do. And is there performance review that links to this sort of thing? Third one is, what's your structure? And again, I don't know if any of you have heard of him. You may have done. David Andrews has been around in careers for a very long time, a very knowledgeable gentleman, has written a book on career leadership. But is it a member of your, or if you're the career leader, are you a member of the SLT? Or do you have a member of the SLT you work with? How do you work it across the school? Do you have other staff who, if you like, are partially under you for career learning, but partially under other subjects? What is the structure of leading your career program? Do you have people who come in to do the guidance, and how do they fit in? Or do you have internal provision? Who's your planning team? Careers linked very effectively to PSHE or to citizenship. You may have something else you call it. Learning, there's all sorts of names for things that encompass careers, social, moral and spiritual education, whatever. But who is your planning team? How often do they meet? How much do they exchange information? And that needs to go through the school as well. It's no good planning one year separate from the next year, because as they move through the school, they need a developed program that moves them forward. Who are your delivery team? Who is actually delivering the careers learning or the information or the advice? And what training if you like, do all these people need or have or want? Are there any other key players? It's not just your teaching staff, it may be your short support staff. There may be external local authority organisations, there may be external private providers. I don't know what your situation is. I just know you need to be working with all the key players in whatever your organisation finds the situation it's in. This is another important one. What are the needs of your learners and how do you identify them? And again, the people who need to be involved with this are partly the learners themselves. Yes, you can get data about how well they did at Key Stage 2 or their CAT scores or whatever, their predicted grades, but or their group, if you like, that they're looked after, or they've got they've got a special need. But what is it they need in terms of career learning, information, advice, and guidance? So think about how you analyse that need, and you probably need to do it at least annually. You may need to find out where they're coming from when they're 11, if that's when you take them. Or if you pick them up at 16, what do they know then? You can do it in a variety of ways, and it doesn't need to be difficult, but it should be happening and it should help to inform your programme design. The inputs you have, if you like, the people you bring in, the learning you focus on. Oh, what's on there? So, don't forget your needs analysis. Then there should be a clear entitlement. What are the learners and the parents need to be aware of this? Are you saying they are entitled to? Do you provide work experience? Are they entitled to a career lesson? Are they entitled to have learning recorded, to get an interview at some point? So again, is the programme on the website? Do they know what you're offering them? Do they have a opportunity in year 7 maybe to visit a workplace just as a group, or do they have an opportunity to visit a university? And remember, if they do visit a university as a place of learning, it's also a place of employment, and not everybody who works there will have been to university as a learner, but they're helping to keep it functioning. So what are you doing about making sure they have an entitlement and they know what it is? Is it up on the form room wall? Is it in a student planner? Is it on the website and talked about? I don't know. Again, it's for you to decide. Now, again, there is huge amounts of evidence that parents and carers are very influential in the choices young people make. So involving and, if you like, potentially educating your parents and carers is, in my book, not quite as important as educating the youngsters, but can be quite crucial. They need to know about the different learning pathways. They need to be up to date about things perhaps like T-levels, what an apprenticeship means. They need to know about different pathways that their learner, their young person can take. They need to help them think about what options might be best for them. Again, the e-back may be something you still encourage for certain youngsters. I'm not a huge believer in it myself. I'm pretty ancient and I did a similar type of program years ago. But, what is it you're offering your learners and why? I did go at the time to what was basically a grammar school, although it was going comprehensive. Um, and we did mainly academic learning, but we were encouraged to take one practical subject. And of course, at that time, we all took a language. What are you encouraging? And what are you allowing? Because again, I believe it's about ownership. And yes, you want people to have as many doors open to them as possible. But at the same time, you want them to be motivated to do their best and to focus on their strengths. So, how do you engage with the families? Again, it may depend on the nature of the families you've got. We work with hugely different schools. I work with primary schools. I work with secondaries, both in deprived inner city areas, for example. And we also have Eton College on our books. Now, parents at Eton College will zoom in and tell them about some of the most incredible jobs in the world, no doubt. But on the other hand, that's not the be all and end all. We want people to be functioning and happy and contributing to our economy. We need people to support the infrastructure. Look through the COVID, how important caring has become, how keeping things moving, logistics and utilities and stuff like that. STEM is also important. But, when we have primary people, I say to them, can you get the parents to come in and talk about what they might be doing? What do they do? Is it a small business they run? What is it? What are the skills? Yes, there's big employers, but there's a heck of a lot of little companies and small employers and entrepreneurs and things like that. So again, trying to help them contribute and also helping make them aware of resources and careers information. I don't know, I'm actually a subscriber to The Big Issue and they've got a big program going on at the moment that's trying to help a lot of people who may be losing jobs due to COVID and through furloughing and stuff like that. And again, you may be affected and it might be worth you looking at things like what is going on in the community. I noticed that Future Learn is part of that. How are you involved in supporting careers within your community and helping the learners aspire to the 21st century? You report parents about every subject they take, probably English, maths, history, geography, business studies, PE, whatever. But do you talk to the parent about how well they are being prepared for the world of work? It's not all that difficult and it can be referenced through others. Again, punctual and reliable are things, this will do them good in a job. I say to kids sometimes when I interview them again, why would I employ you? I might say to a bunch of 11 or 12, year 11s or 12s, not age 11 or 12. And they'll come up with, oh, I'm creative. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do the other. And I say to them after a while sometimes, what's your attendance record like? And they'll mainly say pretty good. And I say, well, that's really important to an employer as well. It's no good employing a genius who turns up one day a week. It's important to be employing somebody who's there regularly doing the job you need them to do. So how are you involving them? And then how do you tell the parents how they're getting on? How do you let them know if the kids are having a careers interview? Some people invite parents along, and that can be a good idea. It depends again on the nature of the parents and the young people. But it might be useful to tell parents, even if you don't actually invite them, that, oh, so-and-so's having a careers interview, so that they can start that conversation, or that they're going on a trip. And again, when they do go on a trip, make sure it focuses on any careers elements. CPD. Don't know how many of you sitting there have done careers educators. You might not be sitting, you might be standing or lying for all I know. But anyway, those of you out there, I think there's still 20 of you according to my little list, or quite a lot. So have you done the career leader training? If you haven't, has somebody else? Which career leader training did you do? There's a variety of them. We deliver on both Teach First, which is non-accredited, and on Futures, which is a level 6. Which networks are you engaged in? What training have you had? What training do you need? What about the staff you work with? How do you ensure that the delivery staff, whether that's tutors or subject people, if you haven't had I still want to call them Baker Days, but whatever they're called these days, you know, an inset session around careers, I think you need to make sure you get one. Now, I know you might have to beg and plead, and it might be a 12-month wait, but the sooner you ask, the sooner you might get your inset session. Do you have a way of keeping people up to date? Do you email them or have a careers bulletin, both for staff and for parents, etc.? Keeping people up to date, okay? The partners you have, who are they? What are your agreements with them? What are they doing for you? And is it working to your advantage, if you like, as much as possible? When Connections delivered guidance to people, schools sometimes really hadn't got a clue what was going on. They just let these people come in, talk to the kids, and then off they went again. That wasn't best practice. Now people have to pay for it sometimes, but even then, what is it you're paying for? What do you want? If you're buying in an expert, make sure you use that expertise for what they're specially an expert in. Try not to use it for something that somebody else could be doing. You may have heard about the sort of triage career model where somebody knows a bit about passing people on to the experts. If a kid in year 12 just needs some information about unis, do they really need to see a level 6 professional? What they need to do is go on a website or visit and find out themselves. Again, I would say, and I know sometimes it's difficult because of all the pressures on you, but you should be enabling youngsters to do their own things to help themselves. But what procedures do you use? We're nearly at the end. I'm getting there, and I'm very aware of time. Somebody has had to drop out or got fed up with me. Monitoring, review, and evaluation. The quality and careers standard and the way we work it particularly is all about keeping yourself ideally moving forward and making things better. However, I am very aware that at the moment you're probably running really fast to stand still. But do just keep trying, because careers in a way has never been more important in my mind. And it's also important that you help the learners learn about themselves and the effects that things like lockdown and online learning have on them. So just remember the difference, if you like. Monitoring is to check if somebody's supposed to be delivering a careers lesson or a career input in tutor time, how do you know it's being delivered? I've worked with schools who've said, yep, there's a program in place. But when you talk to the kids, they say, oh no, tutor time, we're just told to get on with our homework or talk amongst ourselves. They don't do that. So how do you check it's happening? If you're asking kids to go for an interview or to an event, how do you check it's happening? This shows my age, film 80. I was double figures well by then. Are you delivering the right sort of things? You will have had to look at your program really hard. You may have had to slim it down. You may have had to put it online. I hope you haven't abandoned it completely. And I'm at the moment trying to write a blog that might help about, even though COVID might have knocked things for six, you should still be able to achieve the award. So review what you're doing. Don't do things more often than you need to. You know, make sure learning happens, recorded, is kept there and referred back to, so you don't have to do it all again, etc. And then evaluation, as I mentioned earlier, what is it you're trying to do? My example there is that perhaps you were trying to teach them to get into that bottle and drink the water. Now, if two people have had the inputs, one of them may know how to do it, but they haven't yet bothered to get into that bottle and drink the water. The other one has done. So in terms of evaluation, one of the programs, if you like, or one of the people it's had more impact on. So what we're looking at is it, and you can't monitor and evaluate and review absolutely everything all of the time, but it is about thinking, you know, what is it I need to do? How can we work through? You may be a lone member of a careers department, which can be quite a lonely job, and there may be career people around who can help you. Maybe at the school down the road or a local network or the CDI, you can be a member and join the forums. Or if you're local, there is a Facebook group locally and we have websites, etc. But how are you doing it? And your department, like any other department, should have a improvement plan, which should feed into your school development plan. But you can't perform miracles. Don't beat yourself up about it if you can't do all the great things you want to do. I've learned that over 40 odd years in education. But that's the plan. You're trying to move things forward and check they're being effective. If you have face-to-face interviews, mock interviews, is that really how it's working now in the 21st century? Could you be better doing it online? I have a 23-year-old, fairly recent graduate who, when she applied for all the jobs she got offered or grad schemes, to begin with, she had to do telephone interviews, video interviews, all sorts of things before they actually invited her as a person to go to their company and have a proper, what we might call an old-fashioned person-to-person interview. That's where we're going, and I suspect that that will be coming even faster now with COVID. Why pay for somebody to come 50 or 60 miles for an interview when you can initially talk to them over Zoom or Teams or whatever you choose, and then decide if you think you might want to get them nearer and talk to them more? So are you doing that? Are you using the 21st century tools of how are they putting themselves out? Again, my daughter's gone into HR and she's written a blog for me fairly recently about it's really important to put your experience in your LinkedIn profile if you want to be headhunted for a job. She spends a lot of her time looking for particular roles in small growing tech companies, and she goes through Facebook profiles to find people that have the experience that they want. If people haven't put their experience there, she won't find them. So if you do choose to do Career Mark, or if you want to find more about what we're offering, we have a members area which provides you with support and resources. But even if not, have a quick look or go to the Quality and Careers Standard website and you will find out more about what's going on. Now possibly going to take some questions. So I don't know if I stop sharing. And has anybody got anything they specifically want to ask or to say? Nobody's put anything in the chat. You've either all gone off to cook your tea, or I've been answering your questions as you go along, or you're just gobsmacked. I don't know. Anybody want to say anything? Anybody want to ask me anything? Put your hand up, turn your mic on. I'm here. We have finished a little bit early, but on the other hand, cost of the quality award, yeah, okay. At the moment, ours is a sort of special COVID offer we've put on, and it costs, I believe it's $12.50. We do have a flyer, it's on, and that gets you your membership and your first accreditation. We do that in terms of we want half the money up front so you can start the process, and then when you are assessed, the other half of the money is paid. Once you've done it once, a revalidation is £750 rather than that much, because it takes a bit less time, and therefore what you're really paying for is the time and expertise of your assessor, because they need to look at stuff, they need to come and spend the day, and they need to write a report. Okay, how long does the process take? Well, that's a bit like how long is a piece of string. It depends where you are when you start. On average, we would say schools take 18 months from the beginning of the process to their first assessment. However, we have had schools who've done it in maybe 5 or 6 months, because most of the good practice is there. We have had schools who've taken 2 years or longer. Okay, partly it depends how much support and time you get, whether you've already got evaluation systems and review systems in place, because if you haven't, that may well take an academic year. But as I say, it depends on the nature of your organisation as to how long. If you take more than 2 years, we request another membership fee unless there's particular reasons, like at the moment we've been lenient with people because obviously lockdown has knocked everybody for a 6. But normally it's a 2-year time scale, and we would sort of expect people to. Emma, have you got a question? Or no, that's my hand moving about. Sorry, I thought you might put a hand up. Any more questions? We have with us this afternoon a lady from Kenya. To be perfectly honest, Edna, I don't know. We do have a national we have an international career mark, and we have people who hold it in various parts of the world. It wouldn't necessarily be the quality and career standard, because you don't have to comply with what our government says. If your government has particular regulations, we could look at it, matching those and being recognised. But it would certainly, I mean, if you're an international school, say, it would be known as a recognition of good practice from a British education perspective, Edna. So that's all I can really say about that. When I say we've got a school in Oman, we've got people signed up, I think, in Hong Kong. You've obviously expressed an interest. We'll go anywhere. We want to help improve transitions for everybody, and we believe that it doesn't matter where you are. the same things apply, but just in your own context. So hopefully that gives you some answer, Edna, and hopefully you and I can talk a bit more about that tomorrow. Anybody else? I see again, a few more have left. I make it 5 o'clock. Oh, teach first training. Say that again. That was somebody who popped one up. Craig. Craig, okay. Could you drop me an email? Craig, can I ask you to drop me one, because I at the moment don't have your email. Just email whoever you emailed before and I will then get back to you if you possibly could, okay? Because I'll do my best. I'll try and have a look, but if you really want me to reply, email me and I will get back to you, or email admin. But I'm Janet.Hutchinson@Complete Careers. I think it was at the beginning of my presentation. Maybe it wasn't, but if it wasn't, just send it to somebody and say, I want Janet to get in touch, or somebody to come and talk to me. Okay? Can I have your email? Let me just type it for everybody. Janet.Hutchinson. It's gone dark in my living room. It's probably gone dark wherever you are. Careers. .com. Let me have a look. Janet.Hutchinson@completecareers.com. There you go. You now all have my personal email if you want it. I try and be good at answering emails, but sometimes it can take a little while. Okay, I am going to conclude, I think, unless anybody's got anything else. As I say, I hope you've I hope you found it useful and interesting. You know, we'd love to have you on board in our community. We like to think we're a family. We really believe in what we're doing. So take care and thank you. Peter, are you coming back in briefly?
Just one last question from Edna. Is the award for the services listed on our website?
There is mention of the quality award under complete career. Look at the career mark page, Edna. But I can send you some more stuff when we've talked. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter. If you now want to, shall I let you end the meeting or shall I? Bye for now, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.